All right, so we're gonna go over the debate Friday night and relate it to the state of the race overall. First thing I want to do, I want to rank the candidates from worst to first off their performance off the last debate, and the worst performance, in my opinion, was by far Mayor Pete. He came in there with a tie with Bernie Sanders, even though he lost the popular votes. Through the media, some people even said he won. That was the impression that was given through the media. And then they had to correct it and say that he tied with Bernie Sanders. So he had a lot to gain, and he had a target on his back. He got hit with the chopper a few different times. I'm not even gonna lie to you. He got hit by Klobuchar. He got hit by Bernie with the 40 billionaires. But the hardest he got hit, and this might have been a knockout blow, was by the moderator, Lindsay Davis. Shout out to her, because she did what I've been calling on the candidates to do for a few debates now. She hit him on his record as mayor of South Bend. He has an absolutely horrendous record, especially when it comes to race relations in his own city. And again, I'll always say this, if you cannot run a smaller city, what make you think you can run the entire country? So she asked him specifically about why the marijuana arrest rates went up when he became mayor. He tried to lie his way out of it, tried to be real slick. She called him right out. She kept going back to the same question. She would not let him escape, and he was forced to answer it. And the answer he gave was terrible. He said something to the effect of there was gang activity, that's why the marijuana rates went up. What? What? Makes no sense. So you can hit Buttigieg like this all day long. And to prove that point, Biden released a campaign ad that was like ether. And the press is funny. They was like, oh my God, it's negative. But the ad is really effective. If you've seen it, it basically compares his record to Biden. I don't even like Biden, but it compares his record to Biden. Talks about how he fired the first black police chief. Talk about how he fired the first black firefighter chief. How he ignored racism. Basically, the stuff I've been talking about for months on end. Because if you watch this channel at all, and we still, of course, growing our audience, you would know I've been saying how terrible Mayor Pete is since the beginning. It's amazing that he got this far. It really is. With his record, terrible record, not many accomplishments, and somehow he finished second in the Iowa caucuses. And it's going forward. He might be the top moderate, even though Bloomberg is creeping up. And we're going to talk about Bloomberg. Oh, I'm going to release the chopper on him too pretty soon. So, who had the second worst performance? Have to be Andrew Yang, in my opinion. Why? Because he was just there. And I thought he was getting better with the debates because the last few debates he was in, I thought he was sharp. I thought he did a good job. This debate, very low energy. And like I said, he was just there. And he went back into his old habits. Old habits is to relate every question to UBI. UBI is important. I support UBI, and I think it needs more discussion. I think automation need to be a bigger topic going forward. However, you cannot relate every question back to automation. Tom Steyer asked directly about reparations, said he support reparations. When it came to Andrew Yang to speak on it, he just mentioned UBI again without saying whether he supported or or if he don't support reparation. Now with his answer, I let me know he don't support reparations, but be clear. Be clear. Don't be a slimy politician because you're not a politician, right? You a businessman. You here for one purpose. So I did not like his debate performance at all, and he really needed a good performance because he's still in the low single digits in most states, and if he doesn't win or He never was going to win New Hampshire, but if he doesn't have a strong finish in New Hampshire, I don't know where he go from here. Where he's going to go? California, his home state. He's not winning California, so I don't know where he goes. He probably stays in the race just because it seemed like the main point of him even being in is to discuss UBI, Universal Basic Income, which is cool. And like I said, it need to be more of a discussion. I'm going to be bringing that up soon. And I'm going to be talking about that more and more. Now, third worst performance, in my opinion, will have to be Mr. Joe Biden. Biden started off okay. He didn't have as many stumbles. He had higher energy. However, I think his campaign advisors probably told him he need to should be more energetic. And I think he confused that with yelling. You don't have to yell to show that you energetic. Just show that you paying attention. So I thought his performance was uneasy. It was a little weird. I didn't really like his performance. And also, Bernie Sanders hit him every single debate on the same issue. And why does he hit him on the same issue every debate? Because Joe Biden have no answers for it, and he can't answer for it. His vote for the war in Iraq, unexcusable. There is no answer for it, and he give the same answer every debate. Well, I thought George Bush was going to do the right thing, and Bernie just come back and say, "Well, I had the same set of evidence, and I always thought Bush and Cheney was lying." What you gonna say to that? Iraq was a disaster because we all have a short-term memory because we got so much going on in our life. If you don't remember the Iraq War and how disastrous it was, let me briefly remind you. We was already at war in Afghanistan, fighting the Taliban, fighting Al Qaeda, and what the Bush administration did, they basically lied about weapons of mass destruction, ruined the U.S. name around the world. They invaded Iraq with no plan, really, no plan for the insurgency. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Iraqis died. Thousands of U.S. soldiers died, and it was one of the worst foreign policy blunders in American history. I was in the military during this time too, so um, that's something that's near and dear to my heart because I know a lot of people that went to Iraq. I know a lot of people went to Afghanistan, and just terrible policy. So for me, just a simple apology is kind of not good enough. It's not good enough because it should have been obvious. It should have been obvious that Bush was lying. But I'm not. I'm gonna get off of that for now because I could do a whole show about how terrible the war in Iraq is. And I say is because we still got troops in Iraq, which is crazy. Which is crazy. But anyway, all right. So going on from Joe Biden, I will have to say that I'll have to go with Elizabeth Warren. Now, Elizabeth Warren didn't have a bad performance, but she didn't really have a good performance either. She stayed away from the healthcare debate, and she really needed to jump in the healthcare debate because that would made her candidacy go down. That's been her problem because she messed up early. If you go back through my videos, one of the things I said during the first few debates, if you go back, it's documented, and I said she made a mistake with how she was explaining her healthcare plan. Even before she changed it up and did all this weird stuff with it. Because she would not say that taxes was going to go up for the middle class. And I said the easy way to spin that is this. I understand you don't want to say taxes is going to go up for the middle class because Republicans will use that as attack ads, and your fellow Democrats would too, the people you're running against. So I understood that part, right? And if I was a political strategist, a simple way to flip that is actually taxes for most people will go down. Why? Because healthcare is a private tax. The Affordable Care Act passed because um, John Roberts of the Supreme Court, a conservative justice, sided with the liberal justice and said the ACA was constitutional and legal because it's like a tax. So it's just a private tax. So you getting rid of the private tax and you're just making it a public tax. And because you're not gonna have to pay premiums no more, you're not gonna have to pay the deductibles. So for most people, you actually save money. So it'd be like a tax cut. That'd be an easy way of spending it. But she would just say, well, rich people gonna pay more, the middle class gonna pay less. Middle class gonna pay less, rich people gonna pay more. Now I said at the time that was a mistake. I did. And so she needed to clarify her healthcare position because when she came out with a way to pay it, I think her initial plan got more criticism than it deserved. I thought some of it was creator. I do like continuing to tax employers for healthcare. I thought it was I thought it was a creative way to pay for it. So I wasn't as mad as other people with her initial proposal. I didn't like the fact that she stated that it was going to be a transition from a public option to Medicare for all, even though that is the most likely scenario because I'm going to do another video about this because I think some Bernie supporters got unrealistic expectations. I don't see how we get Medicare for all passed before 2024, or I should say after 2024 election. And I'm going to explain that a little bit later, my thinking about that. But you start from the toughest position and then you negotiate down. Like stating that you're going to do a public option first, that's weaken your negotiating power. So I didn't like that. So she needed to jump into the healthcare debate and provide clarity with her positions. She was quiet during the healthcare debate. She had an opportunity to really bury Pete, and she basically threw a good shot, but wasn't a knockout blow. She could have knocked him clean out. She could have knocked him clean out, but she failed to do so. After Lindsey Davis asked Pete about the arrest rates of African Americans during his term, she asked Elizabeth Warren, is his response good enough? It's her credit. She said, no, good. But then she started mouthing off about other stuff. You should have kept your foot on his neck, but she didn't do so. And she needed a standout performance because she'd been going down in the polls. Simple as that. She needed a standout performance, and it didn't happen. But her answers were pretty decent most of the time. I do like the fact that she brought up her red line and housing correction proposal, which is a pretty good proposal, although I wish one of the moderators would have asked her, how would you prevent justification? That's one of the questions I have about her proposal. But, one day, if I'm ever a moderator, I get to ask these questions. But anyway, so above Elizabeth Warren, I have Amy Klobuchar. Not because I liked what she was saying, because I didn't. I think as she get more notoriety, her record as a prosecutor going to get more and more examined. And I know some people is saying, well, it's unfair that Amy Klobuchar kind of got a pass, but people killed Kamala Harris with her record. And I say yes, but it's a little bit of a difference. I'll tell you why. Amy Klobuchar was polling in single digits. When Kamala Harris announced she was a frontrunner, a lot of people thought she was going to win the nomination. So obviously more attention was placed on her. Nobody was paying attention to Klobuchar. But if she continued to rise, because she is going up in the polls, oh yeah, that record is going to come out, especially in South Carolina. When you start getting to states with black populations, oh yeah, oh yeah, it's going to come out. So don't worry. Her record is going to get plenty of scrutiny going forward. Now, Above Amy Klobuchar. Yeah, I still think she was a winner of the debate. Let me just go back to her. Because even though I don't like what she was saying, she was strong, she was confident, she didn't make as many corny jokes as usual. So I thought she had a good performance, even though I disagree with her politics. So the two winners, and I have them tied, is Bernie Sanders and Tom Steyer for different reasons, right? For different reasons and the same reason. The reason why they both winners, and you can include Amy Klobuchar in this too, they improved their position. They all accomplished the goal. Like I said, Elizabeth Warren didn't do that. Andrew Yang didn't do that. Pete didn't do that. Biden didn't do that. So why do I say that? Bernie Sanders basically got a co-win in Iowa with Pete, so a lot of attention is on him. He got attacked for maybe the first 10 or so minutes of the debate. Most of the attention was on him. He was able to take those punches to show that he had a solid jaw. He ate those like Scooby snacks, you know what I'm saying? That's what we used to say back in the day. But he ate those hits and he kept going, right? So and he was on code, he was on message. He kept saying his Medicare for all. You know, he had his talking points down. So he did pretty well in that aspect. He's already was in the lead in New Hampshire. He did nothing to hurt his chances. If anything, I think he improved his chances of winning New Hampshire tomorrow night. Now, Tom Steyer, he improved his stock greatly because a lot of people don't know this, but he polling like at 18, 19% in South Carolina. He's actually polling at number two behind Biden in South Carolina. And I think that's why he wanted to talk about race so much. He pressed Biden on the race issue. He forced the issue of race to be discussed, and I'm actually happy about that because I think this was the best discussion on race we done had maybe this cycle, at least since Marianne Williamson was on the stage. So he said he support reparations. Now, which was a follow up question. What do you mean by reparations? Do you just mean you support HR 40? Because we have to have a conversation about HR 40. I'm going to do another video on that. But do you just mean you support HR 40? Or did you mean you support cash reparations? What did you mean? I wish somebody would have asked him that. But it's good to hear. So I just say I support reparations because we got to chip away with that policy. Right now, it doesn't have the public support to get passed, but we have to chip away, and keep forcing the issue until we can get it passed. His idea about a commission on race was pretty interesting. Depending on how you do that, I can get behind that. He kept the focus on Trump too. That's the other thing. He kept saying, "Okay, we need to beat Donald Trump. We need to beat Donald Trump. How we gonna beat Trump?" And I think that's good, but it could work the other way too, because you can't just be for Donald Trump. You're gonna have to show the voters what you for too. You know, um, so it could work both ways. Now, like I said, Bernie, the one thing Bernie did that I didn't like when Tom Steyer was pressing Joe Biden, Bernie kind of jumped in the middle and stopped the conversation, and I didn't like that because a conversation about race need to be had. So Steyer kept pressing Biden about something that one of his surrogates said, and I wanted to know the situation. And this is another reason why Biden didn't do that well. He said that he thinks his surrogate is sorry. Like, what you mean you think? like, like, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? So I found that kind of funny. I looked up the exact comments, and to me, it wasn't even that big of a deal, to be honest. Biden got other problems when it comes to race, but and this should be the least of it. He need to. uh, it's funny how all these people got black support, but their policies are absolutely horrendous. Like Biden support the crime bills. Bloomberg is going up in black support. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And his stop and frisk is a non-starter. Even though I do like his Greenwood initiative, but still, we could take some of those ideas, but I would never vote for Bloomberg. You know, state of the race right now, it looking like Bernie Sanders in a pretty strong position, especially if he win as expected tomorrow. Is Biden is going to keep going down, especially if he doesn't finish a second, which it look like it's going to be peak. It looked like he might finish maybe fourth, maybe even fifth in New Hampshire. So that's not looking good. Um, Bernie can win Nevada. He definitely can. And to be if that scenario happens in South Carolina, it'd be interesting because Dyer is polling well in South Carolina. He's spending a lot of money. He's a billionaire. And he's talking about race like no other candidate in his race is right now. Now the thing is, if Steyer get more attention, he got some questionable stuff in his background. You always got to do your research. Steyer used to be invested in private prisons. He said once he found out what private prisons really was about, he divested and yada yada, right? Do you believe that? I don't know. It's up to you. You know, I do like a lot of stuff Steyer is talking about. Just don't know if I could trust him. I don't really trust any politician, but especially somebody like him. Even though I'm glad he's in the race and I'm glad he's bringing up some of these issues. But South Carolina is going to be interesting if Joe lose New Hampshire and Nevada. Will he still win South Carolina? We'll see. We will see. Because if Joe would have won Iowa, I think he would have walked away with this nomination. Or if he win New Hampshire, I still think he could walk away with this nomination. But he needed to win Iowa and New Hampshire. Since he's not going to do that, Bloomberg is taking over because he got so much money to spend. And I'm going to do that in a separate video, though. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, share, click that notification bell. Definitely trying to grow that audience. Keep in tune. Peace.